Yes, RAM is which type of memory? It is a temporary memory, right? It is a temporary memory which we can change at any time, right? Then after that, ROM memory. Which type of memory is ROM? It is a,
Volatile.
Permanent memory.
yes, that is permanent memory, right? So ROM is a permanent memory. And third memory is flash memory. How it is distinguished between RAM, ROM, and flash? How you distinguish between RAM, ROM, and flash? Flash memory.
Excuse me.
RAM memory and ROM memory needs a power supply, right? Yes or no? Nishita?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then
Yes, ma'am.
in flash memory, they don't need power supply. Without power supply, also the flash memory can work. Am I right? Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
So RAM, ROM, and flash memory. RAM memory is a temporary memory, ROM memory is a permanent memory, and flash memory, it is a combination of RAM and ROM, but it doesn't need any power supply. If power supply goes off, then also it will work. Okay. So in that memory management, we check the organizing RAM. Organizing RAM means whatever the RAM memory we have, that we have to organize in such a way so that our all programs or our all instructions can be saved. Okay. So in RAM, we check that in RAM we can store a memory in chip also, right? Right. In ROM, we can store the data in ROM with the help of chip, right? In RAM also we can save the data. Okay. So this is a system with only a few kilobytes of RAM. We recommend exclusively using the stack to store variable, but it is still possible to run out of memory when just using the stack. This situation is called stack overflow. We have seen this situation in data structure, right? Stack overflow means what? Your stack is full. Your stack is full and you want to insert an element, but your stack is full. So that situation or that condition is called as your stack overflow. In RAM, we have a specified memory. We have a specified memory. And in that specified memory, in that partition, if that partition or that specified memory is full, then you can see that your stack is full, because in RAM the stack theory is used. Okay. On some processor, this situation occurs because the stack is fixed block partition of in a memory. Yes, when we declare a stack, at that time we declare a length of a stack. That means 5 length of a stack, 6 length of a stack, right? And that length, beyond that length, we cannot insert the elements. Okay. So when we are using stack, we have to know prior how much length we require to store the data. With this data, with this prior knowledge, with this fixed block partition, we can work in a stack. Okay. So one way to reduce the chance of this situation occurring is to keep the number of global variables to a minimum. Number of global variables, we can say number of global variables, we can check, or we can we can minimize, or we can say it, we can restrict the global variables, because in global variable, any global variable takes a valuable RAM at all times. Yes, because it is a global variable, it can be used at anywhere. Okay. So that global variable will always hold the RAM memory, because it, the local variable we can use, and it is diminishing after some time. We are not using that variable after some time, but in global variable, when we are declaring, that global variable we will use in a program at anywhere. Okay, at any time we can use that global variable, so that the global variable takes the RAM memory. So in comparison with the local variable exist only during the function in which they are declared and so take up space only when they need. Obviously, because it is a local variable, right? It is a local variable, so their life is exist in between only the function. Whichever function, in whichever function your variable is declared, in that function only the local variable life is there, right? In that function only. Beyond that function, you cannot call local variable, right? But in global variable, you can access that global variable in the whole program. So if you can move more of your variable inside the functions where they are actually used, you can free up more space for use during the other parts of the execution path. Yes, whenever you know that this local variable or this variable we does not need more, you can delete that variable, and after that you can include your global variable so that your execution path will be same, or you can say your execution path will be stored. The another way to keep down your stack usage, or at least within well-defined bounds, is to avoid using recursive algorithm. What is recursive algorithm? Can you tell me what is recursive algorithm? Yes, can you tell me what is recursive algorithm? What is recursion? Recursion function or recursion algorithm is a function or algorithm that is call it or call by itself again and again. The function which is called by itself again and again is called your recursive algorithm or recursive function. That means one function you have defined, and that function will always call itself. That function will always call itself. That always calling, that always calling will give your memory usage, your memory management, right? एक ही फंक्शन अगर 10 बार अपने आप को कॉल करते रहेगा तो ऑब्वियसली वो रैम कंज्यूम करेगा. यस और नो? यस और नो?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Right?
ma'am.
So to avoid that usage, to avoid that stack overflow usage, you need to organize your RAM. So we don't need to use recursive algorithm. इसके लिए यहाँ पे लिखा है is to avoid using recursive algorithm, because maximum recursive algorithm call itself again and again. You don't need to call it by manually. It will call itself again and again. And when it will call, it will take a RAM. It will take a RAM usage. So that's why organizing RAM is very much important in your, right? So performance and battery life. Performance and battery life is what? Performance is, I already gave you example, when you click on any option, that option if opens in second, that means your performance of a system is very good. If it is not open in a second, then that means your performance is not good. Okay. And about your battery life, when it comes to writing a code, performance and battery life tends to go hand in hand. What is good for one is usually good for other. Yes, performance may be different for you and may be different for me, right? May be different for you and may be different for me, because when I am using that system, my performance according to me, the performance is good. And when it comes to you, according to you, your the performance is bad, because performance criteria, you can say, is depend on hands to hand, or you can say it is like related with person to person. If for me the performance is replying the device in second, but for you, if it is possible that the performance of a system can be given you in a 2 seconds. Okay, so that's why the performance and battery life is go to hand in hand. What is good for one is usually good for other. So a device which is tethered to one place and powered by an AC adapter plug-in into the wall isn't as reliant on energy conservation. It is not necessary that your AC adapter plugged into the wall is reliable, or you can say with energy conservation. Similarly, if you are building something which doesn't have to react instantly, or if it is doesn't have an interactive user interface which needs to respond promptly to the user's action, maximizing performance might not be much concern. Yes, I have already told you the scenario. It is not necessary that for your that according to your performance is not necessary. This is same to me. It may be different. It may be vary. Okay. For items which run from a battery or which are powered by a solar cell, and those which need to be react instantly, when the user pushes a button, it makes sense to pay some attention to performance or power consumption. Yes, whenever your battery life is there, okay, battery life is depend on many resources. One resource is when the battery is plugged into the socket or the AC adapter, it will give you the different response, and when it is plugged to the solar system, it is give you the different response. Okay, so the battery life is depend on the resources which we are using to give the battery. Whatever the battery resources, whatever the resources you are giving to the battery, according to that the battery life is existing. A lot of the biggest power consumption gains come from the hardware design. Yes, your hardware design is making much more like reflectable, or you can say efficient in case of your battery life and performance. Because whenever you are doing hardware design, whenever you are designing any hardware, in particular if your device can turn off modules of the system when they are not in a use, or put the entire processor into a low power sleep mode when the code is finished, or waiting for something to happen, you have already made a quick win. Yes, when you are designing your hardware at that time, design a module in a such a way that whenever the work is done, your monitor goes in sleep mode, or it can do a power saver. It can go on a power saver. As you see in your mobile, when your battery is down, when your battery goes under 20 or beyond 20, okay, under 20, then your phone will be indicating you that your phone will go on your power power saver mode. Power saver mode means all the activity, all the functions, all the applications are taking less space or less memory. So your phone will be on power saver mode. Okay. So like this, your battery life you can check. Then it is still important to optimize the software too. Yes. Whenever you are using hardware, software also you have to take into consideration. After all, the quicker the main code finished running, the sooner the hardware can go to the sleep. जैसे ही आपका सॉफ्टवेयर वर्क करना बंद हो जाएगा, वैसे आपका हार्डवेयर पावर सेवर मोड पे चला जाएगा. जब तक आप सॉफ्टवेयर रन करते रहोगे, when you are running your software code, that time your hardware also can do the work, right? At that time your hardware is to be alert when your system running the software code. When it finishes the software code, it will goes to the power share mode, or you can say it will go to the sleep mode. So one of the easiest way to make your code more efficient is to move an event-driven model rather than polling for a changes. Event-driven model. What is event-driven model? Means when your application have that event, at that time only your code will be run. जब उसकी जरूरत है तभी सिर्फ वो वर्क करेगा. दैट इज कॉल्ड एज योर इवेंट ड्रिवन मॉडल. Whenever that event occurs, whenever that event trigger, at that time only the software will run. At that time only the software will be run. That is called as your event driven model. On the hardware side, this is for your software. Okay, on the hardware side, look to use processor feature such as a comparators. Look to use processor features such as a comparators or hardware interrupts to wake up the processor and invoke your processing code only when the relevant sensor conditions are met. For in hardware cases, in hardware software, we use the processor feature. Processor feature means whatever the processor you are using. Suppose you are using 8085 processor. That processor, whatever the features are there in that processor, that is, for example, power saver feature is there, register feature is there, your power consumption feature is there. So according to that feature, your processor will invoke your processing. According to the processor's feature, your processor will be invoke your processing code only when the relevant sensor conditions are met. Only when the processor conditions, or you can say only when the you can say only when the features is available, that features are available, at that time your processor will take place. Okay, so if your code needs to pause for a given amount of a time to allow some effect to occur before continuing, you calls which allow the processor to sleep rather than to wait in a busy loop. Okay, जब आप कोई भी process करोगे, whatever the process you are processing, and if that process needs some time of hold, needs some times to wait, rather than to wait that process, you end that process and give time to the other process. And whenever you revoke that process, that will start from that moment where that process has stopped, right? जहां पे वो process stop हुआ है, वहां से उसको again उसको हम लोग कंटिन्यू करेंगे, rather than एक ही लूप में उसको रख के उसको busy loop share करोगे with the user. Except avoid that condition and use that data or use that loop to other process, so that the other process will also go into the flow. So if you can reduce the amount of data that you are processing, that helps too. Obviously, when you are using this concept, when you are using this concept, at that time your reduction of a data flow can be increased. Okay, so the service API that you are talking, you might have options which reduce how much information the data, whichever you have, that data can be stored in one loop, and the other loop you can say you can use for the other operations or other processing. Okay, so when you are writing if else constructions to choose between two possible paths of execution, try to place the more likely code into the first branch, the if rather than the else part, as follows. If something is true, the more likely to happen code goes here. Means if you're writing something is true, if one condition you are giving is true, more likely means उसके नजदीक या फिर उसके like for like same to same condition, when you are giving some one condition is true, other than that condition will be at false, but similar to that true condition will always go to your if condition. Means whenever your if condition is there, for example, you can take example of your gracing. Okay, gracing, that means if any student got 35 marks, he will be pass, right? He will be pass. Okay, so if condition, if the student gets 35 marks, he is pass. Other than that, what is the fail condition? If he get less than 35 marks, if he get less than 35 marks, then else if he get less than 35 marks, the student will be failed, right? So there are only two conditions. There are only two conditions. If he get 35 marks, then 35 or 35 greater than 35, then he will pass. If he gets less than 35 marks, he will pass. He will fail. But if he get 45 marks, if he get 55 marks, if he gets 60 marks, if he gets 70 marks, so this conditions or this expression will go into which condition? Your true condition, because this is likely with a true condition. Because true condition, what we have put, if he get 35 and greater than 35 marks, greater than if he gets 35 and greater than 35 marks, he will pass. So these all conditions, if he get 36 marks, if he get for 55 marks, 75 marks, 85 marks, all these conditions include in true condition, that is if condition. And else, the less likely path of execution should go here. That means the less condition, that is what is your if he get less than 35 marks, he fail. Got it my point? How you will use if and else condition? Example, got it?
Yes, ma'am.
So, second, declaring data as a constant where it is known never to change can help the compiler to place it into flash memory or ROM. Yes, whenever you require constant variable, which means you never change throughout the program. You never change throughout the program. If you use const word to declare that variable, that means the compiler will know that this variable will remain the same throughout the program. So it will take the use of flash memory or ROM memory. Flash memory or ROM memory, because that variable is constant throughout the program. So that's why in previous slide also, in previous lecture also, we have seen with the help of const keyword, we can declare a constant variable. Constant variable means the variable which will not change throughout the program life. So in some scenario, it is quicker to insert a value into the code as a plain number rather than to load the values from a variable's location in a memory wherever, somever. And if the compiler knows what the variable's value is always going to be, it can make that substitution. If you store the value, if you store the variable in the memory, and with the help of that memory, if you are accessing that variable, it will always check, or it will always substitute the value in that memory address, whatever the memory address you are collecting. Okay, then third habit is avoid copying memory around. Moving big chunks of a data from one place to another place in memory can be a real performance killer, because the code you are writing, that is creating its replica to the other place. That means your memory is, for same code, your memory is occupied twice. Got it my point? Place to place, got it my point? Whenever you are
Yes, ma'am.
whenever you are accessing same code at some different place, the memory will replicate that program or that code, and two times the same code having the memory. So avoid that copying memory around. You can call that function in single line, so that your memory usage will be low. But when you are copying the same code twice, the memory usage will be twice. Okay, so in an ideal world, your code would look only at the data if needed to, and read it only once. That means write a code in such a way so that the function or the code you can just call. No need to copy and create replica of that code. This is particularly an issue in protocol work where data is initially read into a packet buffer for the Ethernet layer, same, and then passed up to the IP layer and then the TCP layer, followed by the HTTP code and finally the application layer. That means in this layer, in this type, the data is flow, right? In first it is in packet to packet format. With this packet format, it will go to the Ethernet layer, then it will go to the IP layer. That means where it have to be reached, that is your destination address. Then after that your TCP layer, that means transferring layer. Okay, transfer protocol. In that transfer protocol you will check that your destination and your source layer, and followed by the HTTP code. HTTP code is where you have to publish your code. Okay, so the native approach would be copy the data at each step as you unpack the relevant protocol headers. This approach could result in all the application data being copied 5 times as it travel up to the stack. Okay, this approach could result in all application data being copied 5 times as it is travel up to the stack. No needs to copy the data again and again. Just you can call the data so that your memory usage will be lower. A better approach would be to have a pointer or a reference to the initial buffer passed from layer to layer instead. That means what will be the better approach? The pointer you have to pass, or you can say give the reference of the pointer to the initial buffer. That means every program needs to go through the buffer so that the layer to layer transaction will be easily done. Okay, fourth habit, when you do need to copy data around, the system's memory copying and moving routines such as a memory and a mem cpy means memory copy and a memory move, such as a memory copy and memory move usually do a more efficient job than you could so use them. Memory copy means whatever the memory you have first initialize your first function, that memory you can copy to the another, and move also, memory move also, that means that data you can move to the another memory so that the replication of a memory, duplication of a memory will not be done. Okay, so where possible, use processor instruction that copy more than one byte in a single operation, thus considerably speeding up the process. To speed up the process, you need to use processor instructions that copy more than one byte in a single operation. Okay, more operations, more data you can copy or you can store in a single operation. Okay, these all are the habits to make your code efficiently more efficient. More efficiently you can write your code so that the memory management will be done efficiently. Okay, now libraries. Why we need libraries? Whenever we are using any programming, whenever we are doing any coding, for that coding we need to use a libraries, because with the help of libraries only you can write the code, and with the help of libraries only the functions whichever you want to insert into the program, that function is depend on the libraries. Okay, so when developing software for server or desktop machine, you are accustomed to having a huge array of possible libraries and frameworks available to make your life easier. Yes, without the libraries, without the frameworks, you cannot develop a code. Okay, in the embedded world, tasks are often a little trickier trickier. It's getting better with the rise of the system on chip offering and their use of embedded Linux, where most of the server packages can be incorporated in the same way as you would on normal Linux. Linux is a open source software, right? So whenever you are using Linux, that means all open sources libraries, all the libraries of Linux, all the packages of Linux, we can use open sourcely. Open sourcely means we can use at anywhere at any cost. We don't need to pay any cost. There are no copyrights. So whenever you are using open source software, all the functions, all the libraries of that open source software we can use. Okay. So on the other hand, microcontrollers are still to resource constrained to just pull in mainstream operating system libraries and codes. In microcontroller also, whenever we are using our software, whenever you are using software, at that time library and the frameworks are important. At other side, your hardware part, microcontroller also still to resources constraint. That means microcontroller also need to save in your mainstream or your operating system, because operating without operating system your microcontrollers will not work. So whenever you are trying to use your microcontrollers, at that time also operating system libraries and your mainstream code we have to use, or we have to process through the process, we have to process the code through this libraries and your microcontrollers. Okay. Libraries, this libraries, you can say IWIP or lightweight lightweight IP. Lightweight IP is a full TCP IP stack which runs in a low resources condition, which requires low resources to run the program. Okay, so LWIP, that means lightweight IP, is a full TCP IP stack. Then it requires only tens of kilobytes of RAM and around 40 KB of ROM and flash. Means it needs less memory, that is 10 kilobytes and 40 KB of RAM and flash. The official Arduino Wi-Fi Shield uses a version of this library. The Arduino software or Arduino microcontroller uses this library. Then UIP. Yes, Nidhi? Any doubt? Nidhi?
हम वापस एक बार एक्सप्लेन करो ना.
Which? LWIP?
हाँ मैम.
Okay. LWIP is lightweight IP. Lightweight IP, that means whenever you are defining your IP addresses, right? Whenever you are defining IP addresses, that IP addresses should be like, you can say that IP addresses are constant, or you can say that that constant IP addresses are same for different for all the machines. Like for laptop, the IP address is different. Your machine, for any machine, your IP address is different. Okay. Whenever you are using lightweight IP address means that IP address, to store that IP address, the memory which we required is less. The memory which we required is less. That's why here written as lightweight IP is a full TCP IP stack which runs in a low resources condition. This lightweight IP addresses requires low resources conditions. It requires only tens of kilobytes. Means it requires only 10 kilobytes of memory to store the IP address. Some IP address needs more memory to store the IP address, but this lightweight IP addresses requires less amount of memory to store the address. So here it is given as Arduino as an example. Arduino is a microcontroller, Arduino and Raspberry Pi, both the things we have in your IoT. So in Arduino, we have used this library because Arduino requires less memory to store the IP addresses. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Then UIP or micro IP, it should be mu IP, that is micro IP is a TCP IP stack targeted at the smallest possible system. It can even run on a system with only a couple of kilobytes of RAM. अब देखो lightweight से कम memory किसको लगेगा? mu IP, that is your micro IP. अगर इस पे आप काम करोगे तो उसको और भी कम लगेगा, कपल ऑफ किलोबाइट्स मींस 2 ऑफ किलोबाइट्स। यहाँ पे कितना है, टेंस ऑफ किलोबाइट्स, और यहाँ पे कितना है 2 ऑफ किलोबाइट्स। मींस अगर आप MIUI यूज करोगे तो couple of kilobytes में आपका काम हो जाएगा। It does this by not using any buffers to store incoming packets or outgoing packets which haven't been acknowledged। अगर कोई भी पैकेट अगर एक्नॉलेजमेंट नहीं दे रहा है तो वो उसको कंसीडर नहीं करेगा। जो पैकेट उसको एक्नॉलेजमेंट दे रहा है वही उसको सिर्फ कंसीडर करेगा, एंड उसको सेव करने के लिए उसको सिर्फ 2 किलोबाइट्स इज